Oh, thanks, everyone. I have two announcements. First, we didn't use Easy Cater for this meeting, which is why the food never arrived. Also, and I just thought of this, effective immediately, everyone will be paid in wildly volatile cryptocurrency. You're all now billionaires. And now you're broke.
Bad ideas happen when there's no food for the meeting. So make sure it's on time and as ordered from more than 80,000 restaurants. Now, Easy Cater.
You're rich again. And now you're not.
Order 24/7 on easycater.com.
The ruby slippers from The Wizard of Oz are some of the most iconic objects in Hollywood history. And in the summer of 2005, a pair was stolen from the Judy Garland Museum in the small town of Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
All she said was, "They're gone. They're gone."
Welcome to No Place Like Home, a documentary podcast series that investigates the mysterious heist of the ruby slippers. Please listen and follow No Place Like Home, a presentation of C13 Originals, a Cadence 13 studio, available now on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
It's Paul Hamilton.
That's what they called me in college, it's the bone.
He has the facts to back up his opinions.
People ask me, well, how are the Sabres going to, are they going to win tonight? I don't have a clue.
On WGR, Sports Radio 550.
I used to be like that, but now I'll just be like, yes. Always just say yes. They will. Is my favorite team going to win tonight? Yes. And if they do, they love you. They love your optimism anyway. So this guy, he is loyal, and he's an optimist. And if they ever, not that it ever happens, but if like they say they lose, and the same person sort of is like, you told me, you jerk, you told me we were going to win. I thought you work in sports. You were supposed to know. It'd be like, I just say, you misheard me.
Right. You misunderstood what I meant by Sabres by 4.
Obviously, you didn't hear me correctly. Right? Paul, you could try that. If you're frustrated by the frequency of times people ask you to make predictions, there's just one path you could take.
Well, you know how I am with predictions, so.
Yeah. But this
Howard keeps trying, though. Howard always is trying to get me to make some type of prediction.
Just do it. Then he'll stop.
It would shock him.
Then he'll stop.
If I ever did, it would shock him.
Yeah. Next question. Yes, next question.
You might stun him into retirement, Paul, at this point. Not that I'm eager for Howard to leave us. I'm just saying.
No, don't misconstrue that.
Right.
All right, Paul Hamilton on the West Her Hotline. A busy 3 weeks here or so coming up.
Yeah, it is, but you can't rush any of these trades. I mean, you really can't. That's what they did with the O'Reilly trade, and we all know how it worked out. So, hey, even if Eichel has to play for a little while for the Sabres, fine. You sit him down. You tell him, we're going to keep trying to do this. Eichel's a smart guy. He knows it's in his best interest that if the Sabres are still trying to trade him, to show up, do his best, don't make any waves, and let Adams do his thing. And, maybe at some point around Thanksgiving or Christmas or, before the holiday trade freeze or whatever, you might be able to make a good trade for him, although as we said the other day, it's going to be tougher with the cap because teams are already going to be dedicated to their cap, some teams by then. But still, I just don't think you make a bad trade just for the sake, well, we got to get rid of him type of a deal.
Right. I think it will take a lot of willpower for Kevin Adams to do that if it were to come to that, Paul. And maybe the scenario that's most likely to lead to that, which I think, let me just say this, I don't want to be confusing. The scenario that's most likely to lead to what I think is an unlikely scenario, which is he doesn't get traded between now and the draft, is that his health, the questions about his health, is holding back the return. And in that case, I think despite all the we want guys who want to be here and all the that sort of tone that has been set by Adams and the organization here since Eichel made his remarks about the disconnect, I think you might have to just swallow hard and live with that. I think it would be real tough because of what you said. The cap, $10 million salary in season is a real tough trade. You probably have to take more junk back money-wise than you would if you make the trade now. So I don't think it's likely. Like I would predict they find their way to a good trade with good return before it comes to that. But it still is something that I guess could happen.
Yeah, and you got to believe as trade talks would get closer to a trade being made that Adams would say, okay, yes, now you can talk to the doctors or now you can talk to Eichel's agent. which has not been happening yet. He has not allowed any team to do that yet. But I think the trade talk with a certain team hasn't been deep enough for him to feel, all right, go ahead and do it. I think he wants the trade talk to be a little bit deeper, where maybe you've got the parameters of a trade, and now it's time. All right, now the other team has to find out about Eichel and find out where he's at.
Paul Hamilton with us. I see this as this is not just any trade. Think about the other team or teams, whoever they might be. I mean, I think there are trades to varying degrees. Lots of trades in the league or in any sports league, you'd be like, you know what? This is not going to kill us. This is not going to make us, but this is a plus move, so we'll make this move. If we don't, we'll keep working on another move like it. This is a whole different thing. This is, here's a chance to get who you would see as a franchise player. The money speaks for itself, 5 years, and I think the question is more just about, like, are we dog enough for this? Are we game for this? Like, that's what it comes down to for teams like Anaheim or whoever they are. And so I feel like that works, just maybe obviously, Paul, it should work to the Sabres' advantage. If the Sabres here are the ones making the sacrifice, we know the reasons, that they're willing to divest of such a player. You know, not every team would be interested, but several would be and are. And ultimately, Kevin Adams, I think, should be able to say to whoever, look, here's your chance. Do you want to do this or not? You know, he has to play his cards smartly, but I think that's just more reason to figure like this is going to happen.
And teams too have to start figuring also. To acquire a player like that, maybe you've got to take a chance. And
yes,
say,
you would think that walking in,
right? That okay, we think he's going to probably be okay. You know, he's not the first player to ever have a herniated disc, and he's probably going to be okay, and we're going to bank on that he's going to be okay, and we're going to go from there. I have to believe there are teams out there willing to do that.
Yes, right,
yeah.
and then those teams go, geez, he wants another X. Okay, yes, let's go. Yes, now we have Jack Eichel on our team. This is a new day. We're in. And, you know, more reason why I think it adds up well for the Sabres, and they should never, again, except for the neck, but I just have decided I don't hear anybody like the national guys sort of bringing that up as a reason to be cautious here too often or seriously enough. Then it's the more reason to think that the Sabres can get this done soon. That's what I'm expecting. So there it is again for the 100th time.
Yep. and like I just, it would blow my mind. I shouldn't say it that strongly. Maybe some teams, when this all first started earlier in the spring, called and, just thought, well, let's see if we can steal this guy.
Right.
I think where we're at now, like whoever Adams is talking to, I feel like those people must know, like you got to pay, you got to pay to play. You got to give up something to get something.
Right.
This is a superstar at 25 years old, under contract for 5 more years. This is a very unique opportunity, and yes, the circumstances that brought it about are also unique. That's why it's happening. But you just, this caliber of player does not get traded in that league. So you want to step up to the plate and try it? Well, you're going to have to be ready to, deal me something that is of great value to you, because you're talking about a proven star player. Yes, there are questions about his health, but if you can get to a comfortable place with that, then, I think the return has to be considerable.
Yeah, and even now, I think you're absolutely right that teams are going to try to take advantage of Adams to make sure he knows what he's doing. He's a green GM who had one off season that, quite frankly, didn't go real well. But some of that was because Kruger had a lot of power and a lot of say in what was going on, and that no longer is happening. So, so of course, the other GMs are like, okay, let's see if we can pull the wool over his eyes type of a deal. I think he's shown, especially since, he's asking for a lot, and so far too much that anybody would say. Now, I don't I know it came out that he's asking for 4 or 5 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
That's a goofy way to do it. I don't believe that for a second. I think there might have been a trade that involved 4 or 5 pieces. But I don't think he's sitting there saying, I got to get 4 pieces. I got to get 5 pieces. Because it doesn't always work that way. What if the Kings are willing to part with their 2 best prospects and a draft pick, or even their 2 best prospects? That might be enough right there.
Right. Paul,
where you got 2 guys, and what's he going to do? Say no because you didn't give me 4 or 5 pieces? I just don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second.
You sound like me at KFC right there, by the way. Right. I need 4 pieces or 5 pieces. I don't want any 3 pieces.
Right. I think right now, Byfield 8, and like you want to throw Jonathan Quick in for money.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing that. Like Byfield to me is worth enough that I don't need like 2 other B grade. I mean, if they want to sweeten it, great. But like the nuts of that trade, if it were to happen, that you get Byfield and 8 and Jonathan Quick. Okay, and like I'm not dying to get Jonathan Quick, but the money just makes it something that I've been sort of settling in and being comfortable with. And whatever else gets thrown in, Byfield and 8 are what matter. You know what I mean? Like I don't need the equivalent of 2 other number 1 picks. I mean, it'd be great if you could get it, but I'd rather do that than get guys who were first-round picks but aren't tracking as highly as Byfield is. I would rather take one thing that's of great value than 3 things that maybe are, maybe. I think that's the way to do it. Quality over quantity is my thinking there.
And as I said this morning, if Byfield's in the deal, fine. Jonathan Quick can drive the limo to get him here, and that's perfect. He can dress as the backup goalie. I can live with that if I'm getting Byfield.
And does he sit in the front seat? Byfield is the 2nd overall pick in last year's draft, by the way, out of Sudbury by the Kings. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog with Paul Hamilton. So that's the big one. That's the headliner, is this Eichel speculation. There's a lot more to do. How much does what's happening behind the scenes, Paul, with Eichel affect this expansion draft list the Sabres owe by Saturday?
Oh, certainly. I mean, if there's a trade made, then all of a sudden your list is going to be a lot different, probably, depending on the players. Quite honestly, I'm not surprised the Eichel deal hasn't been done. I am surprised the Reinhart deal hasn't been done yet because it's different. It's a different parameter type of a thing. He's not injured. I think he has the best value he's probably had as a pro. I'm not understanding why maybe that deal hasn't been done yet, unless teams are just lowballing and nobody's willing to, to give you what type of value you need, or maybe Adams is overvaluing or whatever. But that's a deal I for some reason think should have been done by now. It doesn't have the ingredients the Eichel deal has with injuries and those types of things that are going on. There are salary cap concerns, and other teams have to understand that, can we sign him? We'd like to sign him to a long-term deal if we're going to trade for him. Now, him being a restricted free agent, teams can talk to his agent, when he becomes the restricted free agent. So it's the Sabres can't stop teams from talking to his agent because they could be forming an offer sheet if they want to be. So at least they can get a parameter of what kind of contract we're talking about here. But that one I kind of thought should have been done by now.
Well, there's a lot to figure out with that. There's Reinhart. There's Ristolainen. we don't have Coach Watch anymore, but we have most of the rest of this.
Trade Watch. Right.
And, you've mentioned, we've talked about Owen Power a little bit recently, and you said, and I just want to check back in with you on this as we're into a new week, that you'd be surprised if he weren't the first pick.
I would be, yeah. I think he's pretty well established himself as the number 1 guy. If you're going to take somebody else, I would say look into moving down and find somebody who really wants to take Power and move down into the draft and get some more currency by doing that. But I think his value too has risen as this has gone on. This process has gone on the players and the rankings and things like that. So definitely, I think he probably is the number one guy. And I still wouldn't give up on my idea. And it's not because I want to trade Rasmus Dahlin. It's just, and only if I could trade Rasmus Dahlin for a guy who was number 1 overall or a number 2 overall a couple of years ago or last year or 2 years ago or whatever, and get a forward to do that and flip it if I'm going to draft power. That would be the only way I would do it. But I'm not looking to trade Rasmus Dahlin because I don't think he's going to be what he's supposed to be or hasn't been what he's supposed to be or anything like that. I would only be looking at it because you have a lot of young defensemen. Power would be coming in either this year or next. And if I could turn that into a very, very high-rated forward, I would do that.
And Power did finally, I don't know that we heard details of his conversation with the Sabres, but it was reported that late last week he did talk to them. I know like
Thursday.
a few days prior, or maybe the weekend before, it might have seemed, conspicuous to some, like, whoa, but the Sabres haven't talked to this guy yet? He's the presumed number one pick. But that's been done, and, whatever I's needed to be dotted there, I assume they've been dotted.
And after that, he talked to TSN, and that's when he said, it would be nice to be close to home. The team, they have a rich history was a quote, and it would be an honor to play for them and to be drafted by them. So he went that far after talking to Adams and whoever on Thursday.
All right, Paul. So we've already been talking a lot to each other, but I sense that may continue.
Yes, I wouldn't mind talking next hour about a trade or something.
Right, if it were to come to that, that would be
I'm all about that. I'd be right on top of that. I'd enjoy that.
I mean, we did get a trade of a big name player in the league anyway. Say what you will of his current state of play. Duncan Keith went from Chicago to Edmonton, so. Trades are happening, Paul. It's
I'm
deals
still going
season.
to myself, what?
yeah, I know.
I'm not as good at this as I used to be, and I was only pretty sure I knew who the Edmonton GM was, but I wanted to go. That's the first thing I did when I heard that trade. This is not one of these new people who makes that. It's Ken Holland.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that sort of confirmed where I wanted to have. I thought so, and it's Ken Holland. It's not Chiarelli. That wouldn't have been a surprise either. It's definitely not one of the new guys. However many of them there are, like the new sharps who are infiltrating sports. That's not who made this deal for Edmonton. It's got to be one of the old guard. Someone who's valuing Duncan Keith from 12 years ago.
It sounds like a Chiarelli trade.
Yeah, sure. It could pass as one.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
You can list GMs who you think would have made this trade or could have made this trade.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. Paul, thanks a lot, and you know what? I think we're all hoping that we are going to talk again today.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Sure. Bulldog wants to hear about an Eichel trade when he's asleep. So unless he falls asleep during the show, that won't be good.
I don't usually fall asleep during the show. So I think we can rule that out. Yeah, no, we talked about it. There was a day last week, Paul, where I got a bunch of notifications overnight on my iPad, and so that's next to my bed. And when I wake up, I hit the button to see what time it is, and there were 10 text and email notifications, little badges that you get. There's no sound; it doesn't wake me up when it happens. But they were all. I'm like, oh, maybe this was a trade, and I thought right then this would be a great way to find out. Go downstairs, make the coffee, and then sit down and okay, what do we got? What did we get? So, whatever. I'll take it any time it happens, but having it arrive overnight like a gift would be really nice, waking up to it.
The latest one I ever got was 10 of 1 in the morning from Mike Gilbert when he was with the Sabres. I believe Gratton was involved in that. And I also got a Briere one also, because Briere actually played for the Coyotes and then was traded to the Sabres. So he was having a game out west, and I got one that late also.
Paul, do you remember Larry Playfair being traded to the Kings?
I do.
Late at night, right? That was that was one of those where I woke up in the morning, maybe for school, and it was on the radio.
Yeah,
I think
wasn't covering the team back then, but
no.
I remember the trade.
I would never dare to suggest that you were. Maybe the big Red Wing trade too. Scotty's Sauvé and Schoenfeld. That might have been. I don't know. I'm not sure. But
I'm trying to remember, and the Red Wings were in right away too, because I remember being in the locker room and it was a little testy in there, but in the Red Wings locker room. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that might have been fairly late too. Not as late as I was talking. Not 1 in the morning. But.
I think Gratton went to Phoenix for Briere.
Yeah.
Was that the same deal?
Yeah. Maybe that's the one. Maybe that's the one you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
All right, Paul's appearance with us there on our Wester Hotline is brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide. And by Raylax Honda. Raylax, we got this.
I'm not sure of the timing, but I do remember, I'm not even sure I was with Bulldog yet, but Gilbert, who I just loved, like he was great to work with, and I think he's missed. Just feel like that's a part, an aspect of the Sabres. I don't know. Like I miss him being there. But in those days, wherever we were in terms of the rights, maybe we were not there yet, but he texted or called or whatever, and he's like, "We just made this trade for Daniel Briere. I can bring him in if you want." And I'm like, I guess. It's summer, I guess, like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Like, it just wasn't obvious to say yes to me, to do like an hour in here, just me and Danny Briere. He was new, he just acquired, and like, okay, sure, all right. This will build something. We'll build something here. We'll do that. We'll have Daniel Briere. I don't know if the fans know him yet, but, then the Sabres are drawing like 8,000. But, okay, I'm not drawing 8,000. All right, let's do it. Yes, bring him in. So Briere, I'm looking at the spot in this room. I remember him sitting right there before he even played a game for them, probably.
Right. He wasn't traded in the summer, though. That was the winter.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Because he got off the plane and said it smelled like hockey. Yeah.
Okay, so this would have been in the summer after he had played some for them.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Still, like, all right, sure.
This would have been the lockout season then. In the summer, right? They were headed towards the lockout in that season, I think.
Did he? I don't know. It's not. I'm not sure of my details, but I just remember like, okay. And then we sat here and he talked about working with that strength Hugo Girard, maybe. Sound possibly right?
That sounds
the
right.
The world's strongest man from
tractor
Quebec.
Tire guy, the big giant truck tire guy.
Yeah, like so Briere, it was interesting just to sit with him. And, I just remember thinking, is this a good idea? 2 years later, 100% of the people asked would have thought it was a good idea. Of course, what? Right. He's coming in, Everybody in sales would have been here that day. They would have stayed late, just look through the glass and look at Daniel Briere. That day, nobody did, Yeah,
that definitely predates me because he's acquired before Drury. Drury is like around the 4th of July before you
Canada
and I
Day.
are working together because I remember like later that summer I got to play golf with Drury at the Sabre Alumni Golf Tournament, and I called your show, so I was still working mornings when that all went down.
Okay. Yeah, I was in Halifax for that trade. That 4th of July weekend or Canada Day weekend.
Right.
All right. So enough nostalgia. 803-0550. More thoughts on how to put this Eichel trade together. We had some good back and forth there with Paul. I want to continue that after the update. Your calls are welcome as well. Mike Shope and the Bulldog here, WGR.
Want to talk to Shope and the Bulldog? Call or text us now at 716-803-0550 or call toll-free 1-888-550-2550. Tweet us all the time at WGR550.
You look at all the top guys, they're good on both sides of the puck, so they keep pucks out of their net and they create offense. So I think there's a lot of things that go into that, but I think for the most part, all the top guys are able to create offense and are all really solid defensively.
That is Owen Power. See, now you'll not make that mistake. Owen Power, Owen Parker. You won't make that mistake because like Owen Parker is Owen, right? Like there's just you will know what you're doing when you refer to Owen Power.
Uh-huh.
I could see myself making that mistake over time, especially if they're both on the team.
Oh my God!
I could see that.
Stop talking.
My son has a friend from school named Owen Parker. By the way, he mentioned him today.
I remember you told me about that a little while ago. Yeah.
So, what if they're all on the team, Corey? Wow,
that'd be something.
It's too many.
The kid can skate. I'm not sure, but
they can't have like 27 people on the team. That's just too many. So other people would have to leave. I mean, I guess that's the assumption that other guys would leave.
Yes, it is, and some of them may even they might be allowed to leave.
Might be allowed to leave. Stop. Rasmus Ristolainen stopped at the airport.
Do we want to stop short of saying encouraged?
Natural law dictates he is not allowed to leave, and he's really good, and we know it, and you don't. That's natural law.
He played 22 minutes this year for them. average ice time.
I know.
That's really cool.
It never it didn't matter who the coach was, didn't matter what the record was. They never, Joe, I think rightly, Joe has the Reinhart at center bug up his butt,
right.
Just like, how did it ever not get, how did they ever not experiment at least in losing dreadfully bad seasons? Like, well, look at the problem with the big, it's totally correct. The big problem with that is you just did not have sort of a unified vision with people who were comfortable and thought they would last in their job. Like, it was not, if you go back to the beginning of Reinhart and you had Nolan then, right? I mean, like, you knew he was gone and it wasn't even Murray yet.
Yeah, hold on.
It was. Yes, it was.
Yeah, Murray was here. Nolan coached Reinhart for like however many games he played that first year before he went back to juniors. By the next year, Eichel's here and Bilesma's here.
Okay. It's just, and the first year wasn't the year to do it.
Right.
I mean, the first team wasn't bad for a while, and it got sideways. The next year, this is the point. By the second year of Bilesma, it's sort of like it's self-preservation time. Like, I don't know if Bilesma thought he was doomed or if he thought he needed to win games or whatever, but there was not any evidently, there was not any sort of long-term unified look.
Well, yeah.
You think I'm wrong here?
No, well, not exactly. What I just want to fill it out. The O'Reilly trade made, like, in between Reinhart being selected and Eichel being selected is why Reinhart never played center, at least at the outset. When O'Reilly was on the team, like, those are your top two centers, and you want to have Reinhart in your top six. His skill level warrants it, so he's going to play wing because O'Reilly and Jack are your centers, I think.
Fine.
Maybe
well.
Maybe that was short-sighted. You could have made him your third-line center, but they didn't.
Well, it's a better point anyway with Housley.
Right, later on.
And then you have Botterill, and then Botterill stays, and Housley goes, and you have Kruger, and we're still not even to the time at which it was sort of obvious, I think, to try this, but you never, especially after Bilesma, you never really had any sort of, okay, everybody, just like, this is a long-term thing. And also, by even the beginning of Housley, you might say, there's like pressure to win. This is, oh no, this is Jack Eichel's third year. We'd better get good.
Yep.
Right? And then Reinhart, even a year more. So, like, the pressure is on by then. Then O'Reilly goes the next year, and you don't know what you have anymore. Like, then, is that a team that was supposed to be good? It's never been a team, I think, objectively, that was supposed to be good since then. Like, the last 3 years, it's not surprising that they were bad, with what the roster was.
Right, and some of the things that they tried, maybe Marcus Johansson, well, before Johansson was Berglund, right? Like, that was that was part of the return of the O'Reilly trade, and of course we know how that went. He took his gear and went home and just stopped playing professional hockey and left like $12 million behind. He was so unhappy. Like, wow, nice. But, like, between he and Marcus Johansson getting here, who was decidedly not a center, you could have tried Reinhart at any point in there. And it took until last year with an injury to Jack to finally, like, oh, well, we don't have any better options anymore, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we got this taxi squad, so, like, whatever, I guess Sam Reinhart's got to play center now. And it worked. Go figure. So it's one of those things that just sort of fell into that, does not speak well of their vision for what they were trying to accomplish.
And that's all I'm saying is, like, if you had, I don't mean that it has to be an owner. I'm stopping short of saying that, and I know how that's gone too here. But really, that's what I think your best organization would have is, it's easy to say it when your team is under pressure to win because it's been losing for year after year after year. Then it changes, and you see people fired. But you just want to have, like, what are the most important assets in our organization? Reinhart was always high. Like, he was never above Eichel once they picked Eichel, but he was always high. And so what do we really want to do here? We want to put him in his best available, best for us, best for him, best for us. How do we do that? And I feel that to some extent or another, almost his whole time, there's been just sort of like this different, I don't know, it's like a different mode or something, a different way of sort of approaching that. What do we need for right now? And I mean, this is not really the fairest way to put it, but if you knew 3 or 4 years ago, like if you knew that you were still this distance away from winning, I think you get there.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get to this.
You try it, yeah, right.
But
you give it time. You give it time. Yeah, I mean, there was, like Paul has referenced this before. There was a pocket of games under Housley where he played center. His line mates were guys who aren't even in the league anymore, most commonly, and it was less than 10 games, and that to me is not really taking it out for a spin, because I always thought it deserved more, like Joe. I mean, it was not a cause for me like it has been so much for Joe, but to me, it's on the list of failures that have led us here, that they didn't do it before, it was necessary, and then found out like, oh, well, look, we have another center, and he's good.
I just want this action. I mean, I always want action, but I just feel like it's just so desperately needed here. I feel like it's coming. I should be patient, but I'm just so ready for it. And I want, at the risk of being just like ridiculously greedy, I want Kevin Adams. You know that one Mike Ditka open we have where Ditka is taking questions and he's just like almost nasty, but like, guys,
next.
What's next? What's wrong? Right. What's wrong today, Mike? Why do you care? Sort of like complete. I don't need to be rude. I would just like sort of short, direct. Hey, why this trade? Have you seen our record? I mean, just anything like that. I would get chills. Anything like that from the Sabres that isn't the same kind of corporate, like, oh well, we want to see what happens, and we want this. Just like, come on, hit hard here. Well, I had something I wanted to say about an Eichel trade, but I kind of want to wait now.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Because it'll take me like 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll know it's break, but then you'll want 2 or 3 minutes, which is completely justified and appropriate.
5 o'clock.
And then, like, you know what? That's right. I'll just save it.
All right. Well, we got time. We're not even halfway through yet, so.
That's right. Tonight is Home Run Derby.
Yep.
The over-under on Ohtani's longest home run is higher than the longest home run ever hit in Home Run Derby. The record, I guess, I don't know if they were measuring when Dave Parker won and Ryan Sandberg won Home Run Derby. Maybe they were. But the record I read is 515 feet. Mm-hmm. Now, this is Coors Field, which explains this, but the over-under on Ohtani's longest is 519.5. Don't you have to take the over then?
Yes.
Yeah, they're juicing the ball, so yes.
Yeah, they'll use the baseballs that they had been using that they stopped using when they got criticized and went back to the other baseballs. They probably got they got mountains of them, of the home run baseballs. They're just waiting for the right moment.
The hitters should have a rack full of corked bats.
Oh.
Like, let's go. Let's put on a show, everyone.
Who's checking the bats at the Home Run Derby, right?
Some nerd.
Right.
Is Joe Girardi coming out to protest Ohtani's bat?
Can you beanball a manager? Let's find out. Let's have Joe Girardi come out and try to challenge the bats.
I mean, who's even sort of...
Right.
Nobody's policing Home Run Derby.
I don't.
There are no managers.
I don't think so. Right.
It would have to be one of the other competitors. Matt Olson can challenge Ohtani.
Oh, God.
I think there's cork in there. Can we check the pine tar on that thing?
One of the other hitters' dads, who happens to be his pitcher, is going to complain that guy's corking his bat. I know it.
There's a $100,000 bonus if my son wins. I want this fair.
Right.
So that's tonight at 8. Do we have it?
Yes, we do.
All right, Home Run Derby tonight on WGR from Coors Field. And the All-Star Game tomorrow. There's no games Wednesday. That's typical. There's one on Thursday, Red Sox-Yankees. The only game on the schedule for the return, the start of the second half, they say.
Joe will have those ball
night.
scores in the updates on Thursday.
The ball scores. It'll just be a ball score. Yankee Stadium, Boston, and the Yanks Thursday night. Mike Shope and the Bulldog here. Much more to talk about, and we would love to have you join us at 803-0550 on what lies ahead here for the Sabres. We've talked about a lot of different ideas. If you have yours and want to share it, feel free. We'd like to hear you lay it out for us. And we'll look for that again after this break on WGR.
Breaking news on WGR Sports Radio 550 is brought to you by the NBA. The NBA playoffs are happening right now. Don't miss out on the action.
Doobies or Solo?
Solo.
So, I don't know what I clicked on, he said innocently.
Oh, dear.
Dubiously. But yesterday on my YouTube options, the home, there it was. Doobie Brothers concert, 1982, Santa Monica on a beach.
Now, listen. Now we're talking.
You know what? I'll watch this for, I don't know. I lasted 5 minutes.
How long
I've watched other things where I've lasted less long than that.
How long was the concert?
5 minutes.
That's it. It's like watch the whole thing.
Just want to pause it for another 1 second. Okay, so it's the Doobie Brothers on a beach, and Michael McDonald has a suit on. It's like seemingly a lot of shirtless people in the crowd,
but not
on
him.
a beach. Right. No, and I don't know. It seemed like a kind of a cool event, and I just want to they were cool, but when were they cool and how cool? Because I don't feel like you really ever bought in.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It never was really my jam. I have and had when I was a kid the 45 of Black Water. So I mean, there was a point in time where I liked them. I think the riff from China Grove is an all-time rock and roll riff. So I mean, they're not insignificant to me. It's just not my favorite kind of music, really.
Good. Big pivot that took place when Michael McDonald joined that group.
Yeah.
So Bulldog here is pre-Michael McDonald, Doobie Brothers, classic rock kind of station action. That drug dealer convention on the beach that you were watching on YouTube sounds more like it was yacht rocky par excellence.
I don't know what kind of production this was, but the first minute of it is just pictures of yachts.
I was going to say, did the yachts literally just plow right onto the beach? And just
in F1, you see the race in Monaco when the... Sorry. Joe will be back tomorrow.
They ran the yachts up onto the beach like those ship graveyards in India.
It's exactly right.
They plow those decommissioned ships that are going to be scrapped on, just run them right up on the beach. That's what they did with the yachts at this Doobie Brothers concert.
Like in Top Secret, they just turn on a huge magnet. The boat just comes right up and...
Well, look, if you turn on YouTube, like I do more and more frequently, especially when I'm waking up, literally every night at between 2 and 4 in the morning, I go downstairs because I'm hot and I want water, and I turn on the TV, which I don't have in my bedroom, and it's YouTube and it's old sports usually. So it's more and more often. That's part of why I'm doing this. If you go to the homepage and you see things like the Doobie Brothers, Steve Martin on Letterman, a Chargers playoff game with Dan Fouts as the quarterback. You and I are more alike than you should care to admit. That's all. That's what I'm saying. If those are they're recommended for you, curling, obviously, that's its own row.
Right.
If that's what's recommended for you, we have similar interests.
Right.
I'm imagining the scouting report at YouTube headquarters for you of what it says in there. It's like, what? How am I going to find this?
Right.
Do we got any Doobie Brothers?
How long does it take to get stuff out of that algorithm? I asked because I watched in between TV shows before I started riding my bicycle outside. So this is late winter, early spring maybe. I plowed through a bunch of guitar how-to videos, and even just a list of my top 10 favorite riffs, my top 10 favorite solos. This one guy does this whole bunch of stuff on guitar. And every time I go to YouTube now, regardless of what I search for, when the page fills up, there's 8 things by this guy. And I might have watched, 8 or 10, 15-minute videos of this guy's over the course of 2 or 3 days in the spring, and they're still bogging down my my feed. They're there. They're not going anywhere. So whatever it's been, 4 months, 5 months is not long enough. I know that much.
You got to watch how-to videos of different instruments. That's what you have to do to get him out of your feed and get someone else into your feed. Right?
Or just something completely different.
Right.
Sharks. Shark attacks.
Exactly. How-to videos on how to commit a shark attack for yourself.
Shark attacks.
How to get attacked by a shark is what you're suggesting I watch, Corey?
No, I was going to say how you can be the shark and do the attacking yourself. But I'll take that one, too. That will probably clear out the feed if you're looking for it. Like, if you just put it in there, how do I get eaten by a shark? Like, it would probably get very different results than here's how to play the riff from, like, the Allman Brothers in, the 1970s.
Yep. Search Tico and the Man, which is the one thing I watch every single new episode. They're like 2 minutes long, also short.
That's the bird singing with the guitar player.
That's right. All right. We will talk some more Sabres after sports. Promise. Mike Shope and the Bulldog, WGR.
How do you order food for the office these days? How do you make sure it's on time and as ordered? How can you get it individually packaged? How? EasyCater. When you order on EasyCater.com, the food comes as ordered and on time 98% of the time. And when there's a problem, which is practically never,
thank you for calling EasyCater.
You can reach someone in about 9 seconds. How do you order 24/7 from more than 80,000 restaurants? How? EasyCater. Order 24/7 on EasyCater.com.
For the ones who know safety isn't a catchphrase, it's a culture. And the ones who help make sure everyone makes it home safe. For the safety-minded who watch everyone's backs, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as safety assessments and training to keep your facilities safe and your people safer. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.